Right, Keely, we're live. And
Yes.
just before we popped on this, I was just explaining to Keely I bought a new camera. So for those of you that have watched this stuff in the past or any of my podcast stuff in the past, you can now see my wrinkles, stray hairs, grey hairs in full 1080p HD. I'm not sure I like it. I might reduce the quality, but we'll see. So today's a product spotlight. For those of you that have seen them before, you'll totally understand what this is about. But for those that haven't, I'll just do a short explanation. Product spotlight is, I shouldn't really call it a product spotlight. It should be product, service, whatever spotlight, because it can be anything, education or tech related. It's a chance for people who have got products, services, or offers in the education and edtech space to share them with schools without schools being subjected to a barrage of sales-related activity afterwards. So anybody who watches this, who's interested in what Keely's got to say, what she offers, how she works with schools, then you can reach out to Keely and you take a step towards her. So that's the idea. I have to say, before we do introductions, etc., don't forget to subscribe to Ed and Tech TV on YouTube. It's where you'll find the spotlights as well as LinkedIn, but you'll find them on YouTube. You'll also find some content on there that I hope helps teachers who are trying to dissect data and topical stuff. And you'll also find the podcast related stuff on there as well. So I shall switch that off and we can jump straight into asking you, Keely, to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what it is you do.
So I am Keely Douglas. I am first of all, an educator, a teacher. I have been teaching for over 13 years in this space. And a couple of years back during the lockdown era of 2020, the story behind this is I was homeschooling my then 5-year-old daughter. And whilst kind of looking at her curriculum and actually having the time as a teacher to actually sit down and, take a moment, I was thinking about what I could do to make her education a little bit more diverse. And being a young Black girl myself and, how I grew up and what my education was like, I knew I needed to do something as a parent to just educate she was in reception at the time, and just to educate her in a way that was age appropriate, that was content that wasn't too harsh, but also I thought about, the wider, parents and what I could do, not just for her, but for other parents as well. So I thought about doing this in a style that was easy to kind of access. So I thought, why not use YouTube and create some content that was easily digestible, short form content, and fun to watch, especially being like 5 years old. It's got to be fun, it's got to be short, it's got to be engaging. So I came up with this concept of having, children teach children. So my 5-year-old became this host and we created Black history content in the style of like a live action TV show. And when we planned it all together, we set up for release. So I sent a few messages out, and the response that I got about this actually launching on YouTube really kind of blew my mind. And it was at the time where we just had the murder of George Floyd, and the Black Lives Matter movement was really, really strong. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were calling for, some action, some change. And, a lot of people were doing their fair bit. So this was kind of my way to kind of get involved and see what I could do globally to support. So the word got out, and the interest was really there. It went in the paper, and I had about 3,000 people that joined live to watch the launch of this very first episode that I released. Yeah. And then I had some people kind of reach out to me and companies about the episodes. I was only about 3 episodes in at this point, and we were releasing every single week, and the interest just grew and grew. And it was at that moment that I realized it's not just, something just on YouTube. I actually have something more here, that people really, really want this content. They really want to educate their children as parents. And then I realized that teachers were really, really keen to bring this in their classrooms. So it was very overwhelming actually at the time, because I didn't think about how big this could really, really get. I knew it was really necessary, but the interest really kind of blew my mind. So with Kids Black History, we walked on YouTube, and then a couple of years later, after this has been used in schools, I wanted to do more in terms of what could be done in the classroom. So I found that a lot of schools teachers were using Kids Black History, but they didn't have that lesson format with Kids Black History. So about 6 months ago, I began working on KBH Classroom, which is a product that we are, launching into schools at the moment, which, brings that lesson element into classrooms. So that's how I've turned this into an education and tech platform. So
it really blew my mind when we first spoke, sorry, and you told me about the 3,000 views the first time round. I was like, wow, that's unreal. There'll not be many. I don't think we've ever hit 3,000 people on a live. I think we're below 1,000. To be fair, so to do that in your first attempt, like completely shocked me. It indicates there's clearly a need. So if you had to summarize, if you can summarize, what problem is it you solve for schools?
Okay, so in schools at the moment, there is, and this has been going on obviously for a long time, there's a lack of diversity in the classroom. Overall, there's a lack of diversity in the classroom. And 4 out of 5 UK teachers believe that a lot more can be done to celebrate, diverse cultures and people and experience just in UK education. So we already know that majority of teachers, know that it needs to change. There's 95% of, young Black students that have experienced racist language in schools. And this year alone, I came back from a maternity leave and I noticed that the language just used, and I work in a secondary school, the language that I came back after my maternity leave and I was hearing just in the corridors and in the classrooms, it really, really shocked me. And the root of having this change is through the education. And like I said, myself going through the system in the UK, there was a massive lack of, and the way that Black history at the moment is, it's obviously not in the curriculum, but the way that it's learned and that young students, hear about Black history, it starts almost at the wrong point. So we have this association with the negative aspects like slavery, and it's quite harsh. And I've really studied like Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 curriculum, and how, there are elements of Black history that, can, and it's just in history, by the way, this is just in the history curriculum. It is not across the board in all our other topics. So there's a lot to be done here. And just as that individual growing up and seeing how education, relating to Black individuals is it in society, it makes it really difficult to kind of see your place in society equally. And there is that kind of, just struggle growing up as a young Black child based on that education system. And we really need that positive element. We also need the root of Black history education to start, pre-colonial in the continent of Africa, so that we just set the ground as this really positive, place. Because to find out, and I had this with my daughter, and this is why at 5 years old, I was like, we need to learn about the queens, we need to learn about the empires, we really need to see these positive elements of Black history before we dive into even Black British history. Because when we look at Black British history and we have all those positive elements, you see the struggle and we wonder, well, where's that struggle coming from? And it might be quite subliminal, but it's there. So we really need to do more. And that's where KBH Classroom comes in, because of where we start our Black history education from. But this is what KBH Classroom is all about. It's really tackling that need in the classroom.
You mentioned a lack of diversity in the classroom, and I think we're a relatively small country, aren't we? And I'd say we are a diverse country, but we've got pockets still, haven't we? Like your traditional white working class mining villages, we still have those pockets that, if you're, obviously I've not experienced, but I'm guessing if you're a Black child, it's really hard to fit in and understand in those sort of areas, and we still have those those pockets all over the place, small rural villages, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Educated for everyone.
Yes. And but just going on to what you said, it's so certain areas like London, for example, shows that diversity. But then as a Black individual, when you do branch out of, the inner city, diverse areas in the UK, it's not that easy, because you have to think about the demographic there. How are you going to fit in? And not only that, how is society going to see you? Based on those education systems, you don't have to be, you can be a white individual that's, grown up and gone to school, not in a non-diverse area. But if your education is correct, you're not going to see a Black child and think those negative things because of the way you've been educated. So that's why it's really important for every child.
Yeah, definitely.
It's how we are. Yeah, it's how we see each other in society, and that cultural awareness is really, really important.
I guess as well, there's some educating of adults as well and parents. So, I mean, I'm 44 years old. I'd challenge anybody to, based on what you've just said, anybody of my age to look back and highlight a positive learning in relation to diversity and Black history. Like you say, it's the negative stuff, isn't it? And I've never really thought of it that way until you've just said it. And I challenge anyone of my age who I went to school with to go pick something out that was really positive.
It's even it is hard to say that and to actually pick out what is positive, because even when you think about positive elements, so even if we say you are the first Black individual to achieve something, why are they the first, or what happened? How did we get to this point? We would never really associate and say this is the first white individual to do X, Y, and Z. So to me that indicates a struggle prior to becoming the first to do this, and what happened before. And before we hear about that struggle, we need to hear we didn't just start at being the lesser of. That's the important work that really
so interesting.
There's very little elements that schools could really do, and it's just even printouts, handouts, assemblies that what the visuals that students see, as simple as you might have a pointer in the classroom, a hand, are we using diverse hands and images when we're doing our PowerPoints, when we're doing our presentations, when we're doing our handouts. These little elements are really, really important, and it's people don't think, and it's not as easy to access as well when you are creating content, so are we putting in the work to make sure that everything that we are creating shows that diversity? But again, that's where KBH Classroom comes in.
My wife's a qualified sign language tutor. So she has to do that whenever she's creating material for the class. She has to consider people who can't hear. So it's a similar sort of concept, isn't it? So what is KBH Classroom then? So what is it? How do people access it? How does it work?
Okay, so KBH Classroom, it's video lessons. Okay, so everything is it's all sustainable. There's no printing, there's no handouts. It's all just a press play model. So it's all subscription based. So you log in, you have your login details, and everything's accessible on the one platform. It's led in the way that we released Kids Black History. It's peer-to-peer. So we have this super excitable, engaging 8-year-old teacher that leads all of our lessons on KBH Classroom and really brings, those students really into the lesson. And we have they're 40 minutes long, and we have 3 key tasks in each of our lessons. So the first task is a quiz-based task based on the 10-minute learning video that plays. Then we have a peer discussion task and a presentation task. So this allows our students to obviously engage in conversation, present, and really have some really key discussion points, that are diverse. And then an independent writing challenge task. So it's a 20-minute writing task, and these vary from lesson to lesson. And of course, this allows your students to produce really, really diverse written pieces that can be displayable around your school. Just really, really show just a level of diversity across the board. with
I love
KBH.
it. Love it. Is it web based or is it an app?
No, it's web based at the moment. At the moment. So we are in our early stages. So what we're doing at the moment is we're working with schools who are really interested in part of our trialing and testing of KBH Classroom. And so we are doing some really, really in-depth research around our product.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I might have we'll keep it offline, but I might have a contact for you around research as well. So I'll pick it up with you afterwards. So you mentioned, KBH Classroom, love the concept. I can see how it's really, really useful for schools. You mentioned KBH or Kids Black History. So it's KBH Classroom created by Kids Black History.
Exactly, yes.
What's Kids Black History? Is that your video content, YouTube type stuff?
Yes. So we started off with Kids Black History, and the difference between Kids Black History and KBH Classroom, Kids Black History 100% teaches the content. It teaches you, everything Black history. However, Kids Black History is it's a video style TV show as opposed to, it's a classroom tool. However, it doesn't give you the aspect of a actual lesson. It doesn't give you the resources for a lesson. So you could use Kids Black History in the classroom, but you would still have to create some questions for the students. Maybe create some material around, and that's what a lot of schools were doing. So with Kids Black History, Kids Black History is fun. It's engaging. You're still going to learn a ton. And I've had parents, personally email, write in, and teachers as well, that have said how much their students that love Kids Black History. But that is really the only difference with Kids Black History and KBH Classroom. KBH Classroom is giving you that real classroom element, and it's designed by teachers, historians, so the learning and the resources that we are using in the classroom of KBH Classroom are designed specifically for classrooms. Kids Black History, we've worked with other TV streaming companies with Kids Black History where we've created, content that is TV show style. So, that's the difference, really.
So it's bringing a really important topic to life, isn't it, for the kids and the teachers?
Yeah, 100%, definitely.
I definitely need to take a look. So I will do that after this. So the last thing for me really then is, because if I was watching this, I'd be like, right, how do I find out more? So you mentioned you're working with schools to research stuff, etc. If there's an educator watching this and they really want to get a hold of you or Kids Black History Classroom or KBH Classroom, how do they do that? Where can they find you?
So the first thing to do, if you really want to get in contact, please email. That is the best way to get in contact with me. So if you email info@kidsblackhistory.com, you can get in contact direct. That's the best place to, ask any questions, just get in touch. Just reach out and we'll be so happy to, speak to you and have a further conversation. Our website is www.kidsblackhistory.com. However, we are under construction with kidsblackhistory.com at the moment because we are incorporating KBH Classroom, the platform, onto there. So I will be releasing on LinkedIn and all our platforms as to the exact links to how you can register your school or your interest with KBH Classroom.
I don't think it ever stops, that under construction.
It doesn't.
This is the third time I've worked in startup, and it never stops. It's always under construction.
Yeah, I have an amazing, tech team that are working at KBH Classroom. It is a brilliant platform, and it's great, easy to use.
If it's the engaging aspect for me, I think. So anything that engages children in stuff that's really important is a no-brainer. You can have gamification for the sake of gamification sometimes, and it's not ticking off a really important topic or something that's we need to learn more about or be more aware of. It ticks all those boxes from what we've talked about. So I definitely recommend. I'll put the email address and the web address and any other links, LinkedIn, etc., in the comments. I'll share this with yourself so you can share it wherever you want as well. But I love it. I love what you're doing, and And if we keep in touch, that'd be awesome.
Definitely.
So all that's left for me to say is thank you to yourself for taking part, and thank you. I think we've nearly bang on 20 minutes, and thank you to, which is the goal, and thank you to everyone else, everyone who's watched. I can see that there's people watching this. I can't see who you are, obviously, but I can see people watching this. Definitely take a step towards Keely if it's something you're interested in. Yeah, that's all that's left for me to say is thank you.
Thank you. It's been brilliant. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Cheers, Keely.
Thank you.